Hi, thanks for watching. My name is Yuji and I'd like to tell you a little bit about mruby on retro video game consoles in two segments. First on Sega Dreamcast, then on Sega Mega Drive. So to start with, this is my Sega Dreamcast and let me switch it on. So this shows a blue swirl on the start screen. This is a PAL version of the Dreamcast, and there's the license screen that we cannot skip, this one, and we show an image that it's not licensed by Sega, but we cannot skip this screen. So now this is my presentation application running on my Dreamcast. So let me get started. So to start with, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Yuji Yokoo. I'm based in Adelaide, Australia, and I'm originally from Tokyo, Japan. And I have some background in C programming, but that was a long time ago. I did some work on Windows application development, but I'm no expert in C, and I have no real background in embedded programming. And a few years ago, I read about Dreamcast development, and I thought it would be cool to be able to run mruby on it. And I started experimenting. And I still don't really know what I'm doing sometimes, but what I found is that it's not that complicated to run my own programs on those video game consoles. So about this application, what I'm running right now, I call it Dream Present. It's a presentation application on Dreamcast, obviously, and it's written in mruby and C. And you might be wondering what a Dreamcast is. So it's a video game console from Sega, released in 1998, and it runs SH4 at 200 megahertz with 16 megabytes of RAM and 8 megabytes of video RAM. And so yeah, because of that, it's pretty limited by today's standard. It's a very small computer by today's standard. And what's great about Dreamcast though is that you don't need any special hardware or hardware modification to run your own code. You can just write a specially formatted CDR and you can boot it straight on the device, unless you have a one of those later revision consoles, but they're not as common as the earlier revision ones. And you probably know what mruby is. After all, this is mruby Kaigi, but yeah, it's the implementation of Ruby that's perfect for embedding, and it integrates with, well, out of the box it integrates with C really well. And there's also CallistiOS I'd like to tell you about. It's a software development system, or sometimes called pseudo OS, and Chaos, or it's CallistiOS, or also called Chaos, and Chaos provides a cross-compiler, linker, library, and with a really nice C API, and a lot of its features are compatible with most mruby default features. So that means most of mruby features are available on the Dreamcast console as well. And initially I had a lot of trouble getting mruby to compile for the Dreamcast environment, but someone has added a build config file for Dreamcast, so now you should be able to run Dreamcast or compile mruby for Dreamcast almost out of the box by just using the build config file. And to develop Dreamcast programs with C, you typically write your C code, cross-compile for SH4 processor, and link against the Chaos library, and then you get an executable file. And there's one more step typically to make it bootable from your on your CD or in the actual optical drive of the Dreamcast. So that's the object copy, scramble, and making an image, and then you get a bootable image that you can write onto a CDR. And when you use mruby, you have to write some C, and then you have to write mruby, and then you have to compile mruby into the bytecode, and the bytecode is compatible with your C program, so you can put them together and cross-compile, and you get this sh4 object file. And from there you link against Chaos library just like before, but also this time you have to link with mruby library, which includes the VM, and then you get an executable, and from there it's the same process again. And this is a actual or somewhat simplified version of the presentation application startup code. You don't have to read this, but basically what this is doing is just loading up mruby and loading up the starting the mruby VM with the loaded bytecode. And this is a bytecode after the compilation, but this is not meant for us humans to read, so let's skip over it. And mruby integrates with C really well, and that main part was calling mruby from C, and this is the part where we define an mruby callable function from C and attach it to a given module. So in this case, button start question mark is added to a module, and it's callable from Ruby just like a regular Ruby method. And the rest of the application, once you write the code that deals with the platform API and make them available to mruby, the rest would be plain Ruby code. And here are some links to the source code available if you're interested, and please ask me anything on Twitter. And let me show you a demo game. I'm going to turn off my Dreamcast now and replace the disk. It will take a few seconds to boot up. Again, it's the same boot screen. Now, here's an implementation of a famous block puzzle game that you probably are familiar with. So the main logic is written in Ruby, and it also uses some C, but this kind of stuff could be written using mruby and C for the Dreamcast. Oops, I'm in trouble. So there we are. And that's the end of the Dreamcast segment. Thank you for watching. So that was Dreamcast. Now please let me show you mruby/C on Sega Mega Drive. This is a Sega Mega Drive, and to run programs on Mega Drive I have a special cartridge that lets me load programs from an SD card. Let me switch it on. I don't think this license is quite true, but anyway, this is the menu that lets me choose which ROM I want to boot, and this is the presentation application I'm interested in now. So let's go to this one. Now, this did not turn out very well because I usually work on the emulator, and the color is a bit better on the emulator than the real hardware. That's unfortunate. But this is called Mega Present, and this is written in mruby and C again. And I'm using mruby/C to run the mruby code on Mega Drive's very limited environment. And this is a newer project than Dream Present and still needing a lot more development. And I've had a lot of issues getting it to work, do what I want it to do, but I'm still working through them. But I think it's stable enough at this point to run this presentation. Let's get started. So here's a little bit about myself, but let's skip over it. I just like building those things into every presentation I make. And again, this is called Mega Present, runs on Mega Drive. And I'd like to just touch on this topic. What is Mega Drive? Sega Mega Drive, also known as Sega Genesis in some parts of the world, was released in 1988, and it was very popular back then, especially outside Japan. And about 30 million units were sold worldwide, and it featured Motorola 68000 as a CPU, and the CPU was clocked at about 7.6 megahertz, and the main RAM was 64 kilobytes. And there was also video RAM that was 64 kilobytes. And the graphics were tile based, so if you see pictures of things on Mega Drive screen, then they are actually made up of 8x8 pixel, 8 pixels times 8 pixel tiles. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about SGDK. SGDK is Sega Genesis Development Kit, and it's an open source development kit for Mega Drive or Genesis, and also provides a nice C API and comes with features like memory management and tile and sprite management, and also controls the Z80 processor for the sound. And also it comes with things like cross compiler and resource compiler. Resource compiler lets you convert audio files and image files into a suitable format and bundle it up into a compiled resource file. And what is mruby/C? You might be familiar with it, but it is the project from Shimane IT Open Innovation Center and Kyushu Institute of Technology that provides a compact VM. So because this is a VM-only project, it does not provide things like bytecode compiler, unlike the regular mruby distribution. And let me tell you a little bit about the development process. So I'll show you the overview of the development process for this project, but with mruby/C, it is possible to build a linkable library and link your compiled code against it. But because I'm using the make file that comes with SGDK, which builds a ROM file from an executable file from executable code, and I'm also modifying mruby/C source a fair bit, what I ended up doing was to check out the entire mruby/C source and add my own main function, and also bring bytecode or compile the bytecode with mruby and bring it in as a bytecode format here. And then I have resource like images and C code is cross-compiled into object files for Motorola 68000, and the resource is compiled into compiled resource file, and SGDK library and object file, compiled resource, and a few other things. They're brought together, and some SGDK magic happens, and I end up with a ROM file. And this ROM file can be put on an SD card I showed you earlier, and put in the cartridge and boot on the Mega Drive hardware. And I'd like to show you a little demo, but before I go into that, I'd like to show you, or I'd like to share these links, URLs for my demo game I'm about to show you, and the presentation tool that I'm using right now. So I'd like to thank people who made awesome software which made it possible for me to work on this project. And let me reset this to get back into the menu, and I'd like to show you this rigged demo game. This is rigged, so I know the answer, but you might find this familiar. It's a clone of a popular word guessing game. Oh, it's mruby. Oh, I've said the answer. Oops. Here we go. So thank you very much for watching. This was the Mega Drive segment. Thank you.